Hello and welcome to tonight's show, and we are starting tonight with a awesome topic, the People's Council. We've got a fantastic guest joining us tonight. His name is Darren Bergwerf, and just before we do get into it, just a few housekeeping things. As you guys are aware, there's been a lot of changes to this platform, and the major one being that unfortunately Randall and I have decided to go our separate ways. And I just want to say I wish him all the best, and I want to thank our viewers for supporting us up to this point, all the sharing of this information, the likes, the comments, just getting this out there. It's meant the world to us, and but the show must go on. We've got a lot of challenges coming up ahead, not just on an individual level, but on a community level, a family level, a country level. You know, we've got a lot of things that we need to work forward to. So I'm really excited to have Darren with us because, I just got to start your video. Hold on. I don't know if Darren remembers, but I actually saw him at the Full Moon Saloon. I just so happened to be sitting at the same table with him. I heard him speak, and I was just absolutely moved because he's a man with solutions, and he's taking action on. Are you there, Darren?
I am. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just start your video. Hold on. There you are. How you going?
How you going, Julia?
Yeah, really good. You're a really busy man.
Yeah, just on the way back from Ballarat. I've had a pretty busy day. I've been in Richmond today for a A1 Ricardo seminar, and then I had to shoot off to Ballarat for another important meeting, and I'm just heading home now.
Awesome. How was it? I was going to go today.
It was really good, really good. The enthusiastic crowd and full house. I think the tickets sold out in 30 minutes when they went on sale on Tuesday or Wednesday last week. So it was very good, and really enjoyed it. He's got another show actually happening at the moment. He had two today.
Wow, that's awesome. So yeah, you've been a really busy man, and I think that's partially due to what you are, I guess, these initiatives that you are coming forward with. Now, I guess my first question to you, let's start with the People's Council. How did you start it? And let's say if someone else wanted to start it in another town, what are the first steps that people need to take in order to start a People's Council?
Okay, so I already obviously had built the My Place community first, so we had quite a large number of people on committees to start with, which I knew the ins and outs of how they worked, and it first started with a discussion I had with Spiros, who's I'm working with on the trust also, and he mentioned that this is the way to move forward, is to set up our own councils. So I went back to my group, and we had a meeting, and pretty much it rolled on from there. We had 60 odd people at the meeting. I suggested that we needed to, or move the motion to start our own Frankston People's Council. It was seconded and voted on, and we agreed. And then it was moved that we needed to elect a mayor. So there were 3 nominations for mayor. We all got to speak for 2 minutes, and then we had a vote on that. So we elected a mayor, which happened to be me. So, and that was an elected mayor, not selected. And then we went ahead and we just moved out. The minutes of the first meeting, how we established the council, are on the website, which is frankstonpeoplescouncil.org. And we elected all the office bearers. We have a secretary, treasury, 2 admins, and we're getting a media department up and running also.
Mm-hmm.
And the website's actually quite good. And we've voted in the 1901 Australian Constitution Act as the Constitution, and also the red enzyme land flag as the flag that we stand under as sovereign men and women.
Wow, that's really exciting. So basically, a group of people coming together and going by the Constitution. So like what I go to, the next thing my head goes to is how, because I know in previous interviews you spoke about how the where the current council in Frankston actually acknowledged you as the mayor. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. That was about 3 weeks ago. Monday, the 3rd of October, we went to their monthly council meeting. Actually got 2 this month because we're going again Monday night and tomorrow night. And yeah, there was a moment in there where we had the whole council chamber filled. We had all 50 seats taken. We had quite a few of us there in high vis, and I was sitting at the front. And there's a time in the meeting where the mayor needed a motion to be moved by one of the councillors, and none of them seemed to want to put their hand up to do it. So I thought, well, I'll put my hand up to take the piss a little bit. And he just came out and said, the mayor can't move the motion, Darren. So at that point, he recognised me as the People's Mayor because they're watching everything we're doing. They know that we've set up our own People's Council. And after speaking to Spiros, he's saying that he knows he has to recognise you as the People's Mayor because constitutionally, you are the mayor. He's the mayor of the corporation, but I'm the elected mayor of the people.
Wow. Well, that's actually what's going to be my next question is like, how is the People's Council being recognised? Because that's, for some people, that would be a really bold move just doing that because these councils, they're quite intimidating. This is how naive I've been, right? I have had no idea what councils actually do. I just thought they, clean the streets, take the rubbish out, do the bins and all that sort of stuff. But I jumped on the government website and, just had to read and, it went as far as to say as, they enforce various federal, state and local laws, which we're all aware of. But it's gotten so, that overreach is so incredible. And it's, there's quite a responsibility that we have to take in order for these, to not allow these people to do this anymore. So I know that we've sort of spoken a lot about, I know that you've spoken a lot about these councils being unlawful. How are they unlawful?
Well, first of all, sorry, I'm just kind of switching cars.
That's all right.
First of all, we've had 2 referendums on whether we wanted a 3rd level of government. And both times was unanimously voted on that we didn't want a 3rd level. So they're unconstitutional on that front. And also they're a corporation. They're not really a council, as a council should be. And they don't have royal assent.
Mm-hmm.
So they have no kind of rights to be charging us a tax on our properties, which is what rates are. And when your race notice comes out, it has a tax invoice on it. So
what, do we just stop paying our rates, or is it, how do we go about that?
No, we don't encourage people to not pay their rates because that's not what we're about. We're all we're doing. This is hasn't really been tested yet properly in a court of law. So what we're offering with the People's Trust is a way to challenge rates, fines, including council fines and speeding fines, anything to do with Fines Victoria and also land tax. So we're challenging those 3 corporation invoices at the moment.
And I noticed that you use the word challenge because it's all about how you do it, right? You're changing the language because language is how they have actually done everything. Right. Pretty much.
Yeah, the language is phenomenal. It's a real minefield to work your way through and understand the words you and I use and the meaning that we believe that they mean and what they actually mean in their court systems. And the corporate system is just, it takes, I don't even know the full extent of it yet, but I'm learning a little bit. And the words that we use are critical because you start telling people not to do things, then you can be done for incitement and those kinds of things. So we're not encouraging or telling people not to do something. We're offering them a solution that potentially or a solution to challenge these invoices and until they're proven that or that they can prove that they're lawful and legitimate. And we believe that they can't do that.
Mm-hmm. And I was actually speaking to a friend of mine this morning, and she mentioned something that I'd love to ask you as well. Do councils receive funding from the government for the upkeep of, to clean the streets and, take the bins out, that sort of thing? Because that's what we pay our rates for, right? But do they already receive funding for that? Are you aware of that?
I think certain community services, they may receive some kind of state government funding, but they collect a hell of a lot. I think they're collecting $115 or $120 million this year in rates and things from just the Frankston Council. Now the CEO's on about 550,000 roughly, from what I'm told.
Wow.
And that money that they collect, every penny of that really should be going back into the infrastructure and into the Frankston people. And I don't believe that it is, and we haven't been right through their books yet. But there's no way that they're spending all of that. Most of their money goes on wages.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we're looking into how that money gets spent, and there's also a lot of stuff that goes into new facilities that there's no real clarity on who gets those invoices. And I've known for a long time, being involved in sports clubs, that the cost that they're telling us it is to build a pavilion, and I can look at it and think, geez, I can do that for a third of the price and still make good money. So why are the costs for all of the infrastructure that gets built in our state and our council areas so inflated?
Well, there's a lot of questions. I think we all have a lot of questions, and I think we also have to be prepared not to know the answers, because it's, we all hear about, we hear about it. Sometimes we can't prove it, but like there's money laundering going on, and, we've only been shown really that people that are in the government or working for the government, they're in it for themselves. That's why something that you've said as well is that by setting up these councils, independent councils, you could call it, right, throughout Victoria, even the state, what we're doing is we're decentralizing the power. And to me, that's a really attractive thought, because we're all of a sudden we don't have that sort of pyramid structure. We don't have that sort of where things can, like, our communities are going to get stronger this way. Isn't this what it's all about? Because we've lost that.
Well, if we're not going to have three levels of governance, in my opinion, it should be the state governments that go. Because the amount of costs to run a state government, and the bureaucracies that they're forking out money, taxpayer money for, that's the one that needs to go. And we need to keep the local village, which is the councils, and it's run by the people for the people. We do need to get rid of a level of governance. Definitely, we are over-governed, and we've got to get rid of a lot of red tape. But to me, you get rid of the state governments and you have one set of rules for the whole country. Doesn't matter where you practice your electrical work or your building work. Whatever your ticket is, it works in the whole country. At the moment, if I'm a Sparky, I can't go to Queensland and use my certificate that I got in Victoria to do electrical work in Queensland. It's ridiculous.
Just moving on, because I was at at a restaurant just before, and I was speaking to the business owners, and I sort of just asked them, like, I told them that I'm doing this interview with you tonight, and I asked them, okay, what's something that you guys, this is what I asked them, what is something that you guys would like to know if you were to perhaps switch from, I guess, the council that we have now to a people's council? And the first question is if I don't, I think you may have already answered this, but if I don't pay my rates or fees, does that make me liable?
As far as in the law today?
Yeah.
Well, you're not liable if you're challenging it. You got every right to challenge every invoice that comes your way. I mean, if McDonald's sent you an invoice for $3,000 for 1,000 burgers that you haven't eaten, are you going to pay that invoice, or would you challenge it?
Challenge it.
This is no difference. And I know that a lot of people will argue, oh, but the council do this and the council do that, and that's true. The council do pick up bins and they do provide services, but this we need a reasonable amount of rates for that service, not rating a certain amount of properties might be paying $2,000 or $3,000 more than another property, but getting exactly the same service. So it needs to be itemised, and we need to know what we're paying for. And at the end of the day, we will be paying a certain amount of rates if we have a council that's not operating in a profitable way. Then we need to maybe remove whoever's running the council at that time, whether it be a people's council or not, and get someone in that can run the place and make a profit. Because I can guarantee you, if I was running the council up on top of the hill, we would be making a profit and nobody would be paying rates. The services that are provided would be included for free, and all the assets that the people of Frankston own, and that's the swimming pools and the beachfront and all the areas that the council are making money, that would more than cover the rates and the running of the council, and we'd actually be in profit of providing better services for the community than what they are.
Sounds really exciting. So the next question I got from them, how is it lawful that businesses have to pay fees to put furniture out on the land strip, even though that it's Crown land, right? I think that's under the Local Laws Street Trading Act or something.
Oh, look, there's a permit for everything, really.
Yeah.
And it's just a money grab. It doesn't matter what you do, you got to get a permit for it. And I've just got some legal papers from the council at the moment because they reckon I've broken a town planning law by having my election material on the front of my building. But once again, we know that any act that any of these councils are trying to enforce, what the premise that we're moving forward with is that none of those acts have any basis in law. None of them have royal assent, and we'll be arguing this case all the way to the High Court if necessary.
That's awesome. That's how we take them on, right?
Sorry?
That's how we take them on.
Yeah, we have to. We've got to do it in so many different ways. We've got to take them on in their in the system that we've known for all our lives. But at the same time, we've got to unshackle ourselves from that system as well and move away and set up our private members associations or people's councils and all that kind of stuff, and turn our back and walk away from the system that we don't basically not understand, but we don't recognise. And that's what part of being a people's council is. We're under the 1901 Constitution Act and the red enzyme land flag, not the corporate blue flag.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to like applying for permits, I'm assuming you wouldn't be doing that?
No,
like
there'd be no permits, there'd be no parking fines, there'd be none of that. People would be welcomed into the city centre. Businesses, we've got about 80 empty shops in Frankston at the moment.
80?
And it's all, in my opinion, it's all by design because they want cheap commercial properties that developers can do a deal with and come in and buy up all the cheap assets. And the powers to be have been doing this for centuries. They cause the problem. All the kind of middle income or the mums and dads get burnt every time there's a global financial crisis or a recession. They're the ones that get burnt. They lose all their properties, and the top end of town come in and buy all the distressed assets, whether it's shares, commercial properties, housing, and this we just keep going around this roundabout over and over again, and we've got to stop it.
We really do. Well, the whole middle class is being wiped out, as you said, and so I guess my next question: are there many people replicating this blueprint of My Place or People's Council around Victoria at the moment?
The councils they're a little bit slower to take off because you really need to, and it's like explaining today when someone actually asked me a question instead of Rick at the thing. You really need to know the people before you start to elect a council. And the fact that I had, we've got 4,000 people at Frankston, my place now. The fact that we had already been working with a lot of people, so you've got to have the right people. You don't want people going in there just to be this or that and have the ego. You've got to select the right people that are going to put in the time. You already know because you've been working with them for 6 months.
Yeah.
You already know they've got the time to dedicate to it. You know they've got the skills to do the job, and that's when you can actually get a council that will be sustainable.
Mm. Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is just, it's, we're so used to, and we've been so conditioned to have everything done for us because the government is constantly being like, yeah, we can do this for you. Oh, it's all right. We'll pay for this. And so to all of a sudden want to do it ourselves, that's quite a transition. But it's exciting because when you think about it, we don't really have another option.
No, correct. I mean that is right. They've conditioned us for a long time to rely on them, and so many people do. And the ones that are asleep, a lot of people don't want the system changed because they do rely on the government, and they don't want to have to get up and go and work hard to support themselves. And they're in for a rude shock in the not too distant future.
They are. They really are, and it's yeah, what can we do? We've just got to be there for them if they want it. But I want to touch on the Victorian People's Trust. Now, I don't know much about it, but can you just start a little bit about explaining what it is, how it's being set up? Because from what my understanding is, it's that Spiros and a team of people have basically worked something. Maybe just shine a light on what that is.
Yeah, well, I'm working with Spiros on that one as well. So we've set up the peoplestrustvictoria.com is the website, and you go onto that website and you can look at our constitution. You can download the authority form that's on there now. Now, originally when we first set it up, we were accepting personal checks, not bank checks, of course, because then the money's come out of your account and it defeats the purpose. Personal checks made out to People's Trust Victoria for the full amount of the rates invoice or the fine, whatever it is that you want to process, and the authority form and a copy of the invoice that's come from Fines Victoria. And but we've kind of superseded that now because a lot of people were maybe a bit nervous that we might bank their checks and run off with their money. And it was also getting hard for people. A lot of people didn't have checkbooks, of course. And we said, well, you can go and get a counter check where you can go and ask for half a dozen checks from any one of your accounts, and the bank will make them up for you. But that's going to get harder and harder. So now we've just changed the wording on the authority form that you download and fill out and send back to us to that you are undertaking to settle the invoice if it's found to be a legitimate and lawful invoice. So an undertaking to settle is pretty much an IOU. It's a legal form of currency in their system, and now you don't have to send a check.
Okay.
So what happens at that point? You send there's a 5 or 6 step-by-step guide on the website that says what you need to do. When you send all that stuff to the post office box, we'll open that, we'll process it, we'll put it all into our computer. We'll send a letter off to the relevant body, whether it be a local council or Fines Victoria or the State Revenue Office, just stating that we've received confirmation that your intent to pay is with us, but we're looking for confirmation that you've got the lawful right to be claiming that money from our client. Now we've had various responses from different councils. We've had different responses from Fines Victoria. They're asking to see the authority form that you fill out. When we did that, then they said, no, it's got to be our authority form, which they have on their website. Okay. So now we've had to download that and email that back to everybody that we'd already processed one. So it's kind of getting built on the run. We're refining it all the time and improving it, but we have got back and forth with councils and Fines Victoria. So we don't have any real set kind of position at the moment. It's still kind of pretty fluid. Yeah. But once again, all we're doing is challenging these invoices, and they've got to prove, that they do have a lawful right to be invoicing that money.
Right. And is it working the same way? For example, do you have like a staff system set up where you're paying do you have employees, or is it just kind of volunteers at the moment?
It's volunteers at the moment. Yeah.
So
and
they
take about 20, if everything's in order and it's done exactly how they're supposed to, and trust me, not a lot of them are. It's getting better, and I think now the fact that we don't need the check, it's going to be easier for people, and we're going to get a flood of more, especially rates, I guess, because the rates notices have just gone out. But now that they don't have to send a check, that fear has gone, and also the to go to a bank and get the checks, people are finding that difficult. So we've made it a lot easier. It's going to be easier for us to process, but the moment it's all volunteers. So we're looking at, we're going to have to start to try and pay someone. So we're going to be maybe putting a call out soon to see if we can get people to stump up and maybe put some donations in for us to help us get through, because we're spending a lot of hours a week on this.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely worth getting paid for it too. So, okay, cool. Well, something that I'm really interested in is My Place as well, because, that's the community. That's talk a little bit about how you have set that up and who's involved at the moment. So what sort of initiatives do you have going?
All right, so My Place, that's where it all started 12 months ago. When I first opened up my my building in Frankston to people that couldn't go out because they didn't have a vaccine passport. That started off our first week. We had 40 there, and then we had a pretty dodgy weather week the week after. The third week, we had over 300 people. We had a food truck in the back laneway. We had some entertainment for kids, and the place was buzzing. That community since then has built nearly 4,000 people.
Wow.
Very close to 4,000 in 12 months. And we've done probably since April, when I decided to put my hand up to run in the federal election. I already had a massive amount of support with the people in the facility, in the community, and they all got behind me, and we pumped out a really good election campaign in the 5 weeks that we had. And since then, after the election, probably a week after, I went to a seminar, 2-day seminar in Williamstown, and I came back with a whole new strategy, and that was to start building community. So we really, the group had started, but we really hadn't started building all the platforms and the community platforms until the start of June. Yeah. So that's gone from, we first started with a health group, a food group, a media group. They were the three main ones we started with. I had about 4 clipboards out, and for people to put their names down. And we had 46 names out of about 115 people that were at that meeting put their names down, which was way more than I'd ever had when we were talking politically. So straight away, it hit a chord with the community that we're going to be becoming more community focused instead of politically focused. And it's just evolved from there in such a quick fashion that, we've got about 10 different platforms now. We've got a heap of people that may not come out to meetings. So you got to identify a whole raft of different roles that people can come into the community, and they can say, well, I'm a nurse, I want to be on the health committee. I'm really good at research, so I'll be on the research group. We've got a council action group that goes to every council meeting, which we've got one tomorrow night, like I said earlier. So we'll fill the council chamber every time they have a meeting. And you don't need any skills for that. You can just sit there and be bored shitless for an hour and a half. But just the fact that there's 100 eyes watching, listening to everything that goes on within those walls, it's just putting pressure. So it's getting in their mindset, and that's all they do to us. They mess with our minds, and they make life difficult. So we're just returning the favour with that group. We've also got a media group now. So we're about to get a newsletter, a weekly newsletter for the, I think it's going to be called the Frankston Freedom Observer, Frankston edition. So so we're setting up the whole model of what I'm trying to roll out around the rest of the state at the moment. And well, I can't think off the top of my head all the other ones we've got, but we're drawing up a blueprint at the moment for what we really need to have in a community. And we got a permaculture group as well, and a law group as well. We've got a common law office upstairs and a sheriff and a heap of deputies. We're just about to set up another part of the law. That's a separate group. It's not part of My Place. They're running that themselves. Okay. But we're going to set up a law group within our group as well to try and navigate people through the system that we've got at the moment, and how not to get tripped up and how not to contract. So there's so many ways that people need to educate themselves. So it will be an education facility as well from now and far into the future, because when the penny drops and people see the deceit and everyone wakes up, they're going to be shell-shocked, and they're going to need help in so many different ways. They're going to need mental help, physical help, spiritual help, and they're just going to need to be caught up to speed. And we'll have all the people in our facility to be able to make that happen.
I really like that you've set up. Did you say you've set up a blueprint already?
We're in a process. Got a dot point one, which I was handing out at the rally the other week. But we're going into a fully fledged one. And that, once again, this is always under construction. I mean, anything in life, we're learning till the day we die. So 100%. We're always and adding things and making things better. So that will continue to happen. So the blueprint will continue to grow also. But My Place is also continuing to grow, because we've probably got 9 in Victoria now. Awesome. Had discussions with someone on the Sunshine Coast. It's going to start one up there. So around Victoria now, I think we've got one in. There's one in Geelong. There's one in Bayside. Obviously Frankston, Rowville, Emerald, Lilydale, Vic West out at Melton.
There's one in Melton.
Yep.
Oh my God. I live in Melton. I had no idea. I was like, maybe I should start one.
I was probably almost I was actually going past Melton when I spoke to you earlier. Yeah. Well, I believe there's a Vic West group and a Vic West notice.
Vic West, I know. Yes, I'm aware of Vic West.
Yeah, so one of the ladies does the notice board, and Doris and a few others are picking up the and getting their group onto the My Place kind of model.
Yeah, I know Doris. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's another one in Doncaster she only started that last Saturday when I was on an interview with Carl Leibold on Voice of Freedom out at South Morang. She started while she was in the audience. I was on the show. She's got 220 people have already joined the Doncaster My Place.
This is awesome.
So, and Mildura is another one that's just hit 200 members.
That's amazing. Something that's been brought to my attention a lot, because I drive around a lot to, Red Pill nights and just other sort of community events, and sort of getting the vibe on what's happening. And something that I've noticed, and a lot of people have noticed, is that a lot of the youth is not around. So where are they? And that is not only concerning, but it's like, how do we find them? How do we bring them together? I know you've mentioned that you said that you have a youth program established or something like that. But to me, that's really important, because they're our future. So where are they?
That's a good question. They're probably down a local pub, or the bowling alley, or sitting at home playing video games. No, that's a little bit too harsh. There are. I was actually amazed just how many young people in their early 20s, late teens, that when I went out and around in my campaign, that are awake and are voting. And there's a lot more out there than you think. But it's like the truth seekers or the freedom fighters as well. They're everywhere, but they just, half of them just don't engage. They don't, they're a bit gun shy, or they're nervous, or they're scared. Whatever it is, they're there. They've done the research. They know a lot of stuff, but they're just not part of any communities out and about. And that's why with my place, it's the minute you start a group in any town, I'm pretty sure that there'll be a heap of people, because I've been promoting and people have been watching what we've been doing in Frankston for the last 12 months. A lot of people know about my place. A lot of people come. I had a lady come from somewhere down near Warrnambool the other Wednesday night, 2 weeks ago. Drove 4 hours just to come to Frankston to our meeting, meet me, talk, hear me speak, and just see what we're doing. So, and we get people from all over the place come to our markets. They come down Carnborough, Phillip Island, Hurstbridge, all around the city. They come across from Geelong on a Friday night. So a lot of people know about it. And the minute there's one close by, I reckon they'll jump on and join, even if they don't even come out to a meeting to start with. But they will get involved, and they will start to follow the local My Place.
That's amazing, because it goes to show that there's such a need for it. People just, we're human beings. We need to connect with one another. I know that's how I started to feel normal again, is by reaching out and going to and talking to people. And because the isolation is really, really dangerous. Just not for our physical growth, mental health, but our spiritual growth. We've got to be looking after that. So that is so exciting. I'm really, I can't wait to get involved myself, because I was actually speaking to Doris on the phone this morning, and how she was interested in doing the same thing. But it's, you got to get a place, like a building. There's a few things in order, you got to get, in order to set everything up. But once you get it, like you've said, the people will come, which is.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily need a building like Doncaster don't have a building. My place, Yarra Valley, which is Lilydale, they don't have a building. They've got 600 members already. They hire a building once a week to have a meeting and start to. So once you get established a group and the group grows, there will be people that come into the group that will have solutions. That they may have a building. The Mildura, there's already 2 farmers that have put their hand up and said, look, we've got land, we've got a massive big shed. So they've got a lot of wealthy business owners up there. So I can see that group kind of going from strength to strength. And it's just a matter of, and there's a guy that rang me from Kilmore that says, look, I've got a property, I've got a massive big shed on it. We could use that, but I'm not much good at speaking, and I'm no good at social media. And I said, mate, you're ideal, because you've got the one thing that we need the most. I'll be able to find a dozen people around Kilmore that can set up a Facebook page and manage that and do all of that kind of stuff. The people we need is people with properties or venues. And I mentioned to Doris also that if you got near on 500 members in your Vic West team, $1 a week each, that gives you $3,000 a month, where you can actually go and lease a 3,000 foot factory, put the electricity on, pay for that for 12 months. And in the meantime, you can start holding events there and raise money to keep paying the bills and kind of grow your group. And you can meet any day you want, any time you want, and you can have different groups meeting on different days, and you can have a weekly get together, and you can hold markets, you can do all kinds of stuff. So it's just a matter of thinking outside the box. There's a solution to every problem.
There really is, and there's sometimes more than one solution too. And I think being okay with having 2 or 3 different groups of people having different types of solution because it works better for them is okay. We're allowed to disagree with each other as well and move forward united, which is something that is so important now, because we do get caught up a lot in arguments and, no, this is the right way, no, this is the right way. I hear it all the time, and just we're all figuring it out. Really, I'm figuring it out. Half the time I really don't know what I'm doing, but I just keep moving forward. I don't stand still ever. Well, unless I need to process things, but just keep moving forward. Have you been sort of reaching out to many of the farmers at all, or have they reached out to you? Because I know that there's a lot of issues with our farming that I've been aware of.
No, I haven't really been reaching out to the farmers where we are. We're kind of obviously metropolitan. We do have a group. We're starting to reach out to local producers. we're going to try and set some kind of co-op up where we can find producers and say, look, how much do you produce each year? And we'll try and get a market for the whole lot. Because we'd like to see people stop spending their money at Coles and Woolies and those big chains, and find a way where we can service that. And the more people we can get to support the growers and give them maybe a better price than they're getting, and we get a better price than what we're paying at the same time. And in the short term, I think we're going to try and make that when we do get that co-op up and running, it'll be a not-for-profit scenario. So it'll be just purely about chopping the middleman out, and changing the whole way we go about life in general. And that's on all different fronts. We're trying to educate people to people don't have to look at it as such a big scary thing. That they don't have to change the world. They've only got to change one person. And if they can change themselves and have some discipline to not spend money at McDonald's and all those kind of burger chains, limit the amount of money you spend at Woolworths or Coles and Bunnings, and try and use local hardwares. We really, if we want change, it's got to start from ourselves, and we've got to have the discipline to say this is how I'm going to be from now on, and I'm not going to spend a cent more than I have to at those shops. And that's the starting point for the individual. And then when you get a whole group of people together doing that en masse, you start to have a real positive effect on your local community, because your local businesses start to do all right, and their money stays in the area. It doesn't go back off overseas to shareholders. So it's a multi-leveled kind of war that it is a war, but it's a multi-leveled kind of community that we need to wake them up to all of these aspects to retrain us, all of us.
Yeah. Oh, it's so intense, but it's really just sometimes one day at a time, one moment at a time. And that's why the community is so important, because when you're feeling overwhelmed, you can go back to that and sort of recharge your batteries. And but there's still a lot of fear, and fear is extremely powerful when it's in force and when it's being forced onto you, whether that's from the TV or whatever, especially when it comes down to, like, I've been talking to the farmers out. They came down to Melbourne, and I had an interview with Wade a few weeks ago, and the fees that they're getting slammed with, they're literally draining them dry, and it's just incredible. And a lot of them don't realize that they're of what is actually happening, because their representatives also have been sold out. So it is like, we really need to re-educate a lot of people, because they're also going into contracts with these large corporations, and they're all being bought out. So I don't know if you've aware of a lot of that sort of stuff, but there's a lot of legislation at the moment that, do we have, like, is it as simple as finding a way of not giving it our energy anymore, using different language and challenging it, essentially? Is that how we re-educate?
Well, re-educate is the key. We really do. We've got to come up with across all of the stuff that we're kind of talking about, it needs to be put down on paper. We need to have a strategy, basically, and a blueprint of how communities are going to move forward. And I know, the fear thing, it's not something that kind of comes into my psyche, but the fear is people that are isolated, and when they get attacked, or when they're getting pushed, they're afraid, because they haven't got any support groups around them. Now, what we're trying to do is put our arms around the whole community and bring all the people in that are isolated and are a bit weak, and we can't afford to let anyone drop off the back of the herd and get plucked off one at a time. And that's what they're doing. They segregate, separate us, lock you in your house, not allowed to talk to your neighbour. And the attack on humanity over the last 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years actually, since it first got released, no one's ever seen anything like this. So it's uncharted waters. But once again, it's pretty simple when you look at it. And what we're doing with the My Place community, and the way I'm explaining it the last kind of 2 or 3 weeks is that you've got a whole cross section of people in this community that have come from all walks of life that would never have ever come across each other's paths in a million years. We are just so different in so many different ways, but on one issue and one issue alone, that we all saw the BS, and that's brought us together. Now, since that's happened, and the love and support for each other in this community is like something I've never seen before. And you've got practical people becoming more spiritual, and spiritual people becoming more practical, and we're all learning each other's kind of traits and experiences and skill sets, and implementing them into our own kind of our own life. And we're just blending. So everyone is getting, accepting other people's that we looked at a bit strange for their points of view, and whether that be the spiritual side of things or, people have some strange stuff that I would never have been involved with or given 2 cents and thought it was all hokey pokey. But this community is full of, people like that do crystals and tarot cards and just all stuff that I wouldn't have given the light of day ever in my life. But you start to appreciate that that's who they are, and they've actually got something beneficial to offer. And everybody's got skills and thoughts and experiences that they're sharing with other people. And it's the most cohesive group of people that I've ever been involved with. And I've been in so many different footy, cricket clubs, golf clubs, working. I've owned lots of businesses. I've had people working for me. I've worked for people. I've never seen a group as cohesive as this group is when they're so different in every other way.
I agree. I've had the same experience. There's a depth to it now. Yep. It's not so surface level. And I have all the conversations I'm having now are all really, really deep. They're not just like, they're not fake, not as much anyway. And I've noticed that that's a big difference to what it was before, because I always had this feeling like I never really knew how to express how I was really feeling, that something's not right. And you'd sound crazy by saying that or anything like that. But yeah, it's incredible the amount of people that I have met as well. And it's actually really exciting moving forward. I'm so excited because we're moving away from a satanic force, because that's what it is. It's satanic, it's slavery, because we've been enslaved our whole lives, and we think we are free. I always like to say this because I was on Facebook, and we were actually in lockdown at the time, and I saw someone post a picture of them walking around, like as in they took a photo of the Oval, and that on the title they said this is like they're freedom, and I'm like, it's insane. And I don't think we realize, I think for me personally speaking, I'm learning what it is to be sovereign right now, because it's such a heavy level of unprogramming that I've had to go through in order to start taking responsibility, learn about what is the council. Oh, what are they doing? Oh, they're not really, working for us, for the people. And all these other things. And it's a hard process, but it's exciting. It's exciting because you can finally breathe.
It's like the biggest group therapy experiment on the planet at the moment, and that's what it's like, because everybody, you go into a group therapy session and everyone gets 10 or 15 minutes to talk about their problems of the week or whatever. And you learn so much more from that than you do going one-on-one, because you learn to listen to other people's problems and realize that you're not the only one with issues to deal with. A lot more empathy, and you get so much more out of having community like this, where people actually coming to talk real heart to, like, putting their hearts on the line and telling their, sharing their pain, and no other, anytime you go to a sports club or or anywhere else. It's nothing about that. It's all about egos and how good I did on the golf course today, and or just taking the piss out of people or whatever it is. But this is just a whole different thing that I've never been involved with anything like this.
Yeah, me either. And it's not that ego is a bad thing. It's just that we've been conditioned to be attached to the ego completely, like live in ego. And that's when it's imbalanced, because we need an ego to say, oh, this is my mouse, this is my cup, those little things. But when it's all about me, what's, I've got to get the house, I've got to get the car, I've got to get this and that, and then my life is going to be fulfilled. And meanwhile, there are children being trafficked across Australia, 20 or 30,000 per year go missing. No one gives it, well, I shouldn't say no one. A lot of people don't give a shit. They don't even want to look at it. And
I don't know either. Like I never knew the extent of that until the last 6 to 12 months. It's when you see the figures and hear the figures, and I was never in a position or anywhere where I would hear those figures, because you don't get them on the mainstream media. I would never have met anyone that is actually working in that field and could explain it to me. Until Telegram come out and all these other platforms have come out since the Truther movement started, or since they locked us down and we actually had time to research stuff. So I don't think it's total ignorance or that nobody cares. Yeah. People just weren't oblivious to the whole thing, because I know I was.
Yeah, but I try to talk to people about it, and I get this response: no, I can't deal with that. Which I get it, because it's quite dark. But at what point are we going to keep doing that? Anyway, going off on a bit of a tangent. I guess my last question, I think this is my last question, is, you did mention that you were running in the election previously. Will you be doing it again? And what are your thoughts about the coming up election?
Yeah. Well, look, the last election, I thought, it'd be worth having a crack. Obviously, we've learned so much from that. Yeah. This election's even worse, because it's I've only got 3 weeks. Once I get, I can only nominate on the 3rd of November. So basically, if I get accepted, I've got about 3 weeks to do a campaign. 2 weeks of that's going to be pre-polling. So I don't, while I did think before the federal election that there might be a political way out of this, and maybe getting a few people on the inside might achieve something, of polar opposites to that now. I don't believe, when you actually look at it and you look at how rigged the system is, and how long, 50 years since Don Chip got in and tried to keep the bastards honest, Pauline Hanson and all these other people have come and gone, and none of them have had any, trying to get someone in the inside and do something from there is not going to happen. It hasn't worked for 50 years. We're not going to get any of us in anyway. So the minute, and all these so-called freedom parties, the Freedom Party, it's not a constitutional thing anyway. So anyone that's voting for a political party need to go and do some research, because we shouldn't be giving any votes to a political party. And it doesn't matter whether it's the Freedom Party, the Australian Federation Party, One Nation, any of them. They are all unconstitutional. And if we want our freedom back, we need to get our constitution back. So the only way we can do that is by everybody turning our backs on the system, walking away, not taking part in it, and setting up our own systems in parallel, similar to Professor Christopher Neal with Australian Medical Professional Society, which is in opposition to APRA, and setting up our own council, setting up our own law establishment, and we just take the ball and go across the road and start our own game with people that play by the rules, and their game's finished. The minute we do that en masse, it's game over.
100% agree with you. And that's awesome, because I always think about it on everything on an energetic level, right? If you think about, for example, the experiences I've had, let's say you're in it will make sense in a minute, but let's say you're for example, in a toxic relationship, right? Whatever that may be, work, personal, intimate, whatever. The more you keep giving that energy, the more you're going to feed it, or the more there's going to be this tension. And I've only found that in my life when I've walked away from that and done something completely different and literally just took it out of my life, I was able to have a different perspective, different options, different doors started to open. So that's on a micro level, that's on the personal level. And so then what if I apply that same mentality and action process on a macro level? Where am I giving my energy to? Do I want to continue giving my energy to a system that doesn't give a shit about me? Like, we all know that. And I do, however, I wish people all the best. If they want to try that, then, you can't force people to do anything different. But that's where I stand with it. And so I know that's just my thoughts about it anyway. So that's why, like, I don't actually personally get involved into politics. It makes me feel shit.
But how quickly do you shift your life and your whole mentality of things when you make that decision and you drop those shackles and you move on? And it's just like the weight of the world's been lifted off your shoulders and you're free again. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to get people to do, is just get that mentality. I mean, it's hard for some people. They're so ingrained with that system that the leap into the unknown is just too great for, it's a fear of leaving something for something you don't know. But like I said, I don't have that issue. I just dive in boots and all in everything I do, and I sort out the consequences of my actions later.
I've started to do that more now, and it's actually not as scary, because the first time I ever did it, I was like I can't breathe almost. But it's the fear. It's false evidence appearing real. It's not actually real. It's all in your head. That's why this whole thing has been psychological. Yep.
Trust your ability to sort out any problems that are going to come up. There's nothing that people should be afraid of starting something new. And if a problem arises, you fix it. Don't rely on other people to fix your problems. And that's why people are so scared, because they've been spoon-fed all their life. And they haven't been told the truth. And a lot of people have been told the truth by their parents. So their parents have given them a disservice by protecting them from the big bad world. And a lot of these teenagers, they get to adulthood, and they get out in the real world, and it's so abstract to what they've been brought up on that they can't cope, and they either do the unthinkable or they turn to drugs and alcohol. And so parents really need to look at stop hiding your kids from the traumas of what the world is. And you need to educate them. You need to condition them for what the reality is, not try and hide the reality from them.
100% agree, because then they're, as you said, they're like, I actually had that experience myself, got out into the real world. I was, always wanted to be a musician growing up, and I was never told that was possible. And then so I had to do something else, because I was told that I had to pay, this was going to make me successful, a real job, a 9-to-5 job. And then when I started doing that, it's just like it was so overwhelming, having to tick these boxes, knowing that none of those boxes that I was given as an option was going to actually make me happy or make me feel like I was, And so a lot of people are brought up in that sort of environment. And it's not an education system, it's an indoctrination system. It's all left brain, no right brain, no intuition. There's a little bit of creativity, but it's even that's been hijacked. The whole arts, it's just stuffed. Industry is stuffed, like it's
Well, that indoctrination used to start at universities when I was growing up. Universities were very leftish groups, and now it's basically from the day you're born, you're conditioned. It's putrid. And look, there are a lot of parents that are probably like me, and that all my kids have been told the brutal truth from all their upbringing, and they're as well adjusted and switched on. And fortunate enough that my 4 kids have been able to be to believe me and have confidence in what I've passed on to them, and are safe from the jab. which I'm really proud of. And my two boys were out of work for 6 to 8 months, and we've stood a lot of pressure and peer group pressure and pictures of Pot and Palmer at pubs, and you can't go out unless you get. I mean, and I said to my son, I said they're the same Muppets that were. I shouldn't call them Muppets; they're my son's mates, but they're the same people that were telling you not to leave school at 16 and start your apprenticeship with me, and now he's streets ahead of them. You've got to be your own person, and you can't let people drag you back to stay at their level. You've got to be your own person, just move forward with what you want to do in life.
100%. That's right. Wow, good chats. It's been really good to have you on, man. I really appreciate your time. I know you're really busy, always doing something, and I really respect your dedication and your work ethic. And you're someone that speaks from the heart, and there's a big difference when I listen to someone that speaks from the heart versus when they're speaking from the head. It's just like, it's just this different frequency to it almost. I don't know, but I really admire you, basically. So thank you for getting this, I guess, off the ground with your team of people. So basically, let's say someone wants to start in my place.
Yep.
Where do they go to first?
Okay, so really, it's just a matter of I'm just about to get a national website set up so people will be able to research where their nearest My Place is. But it's as simple as starting a Facebook page. My Place Warrnambool. Yeah. And just by doing that, as soon as it's up, I'll be, every time I'm on a platform like yours or Carl's or wherever I go, I'll be advertising and promoting My Place Warrnambool and speaking about it. Like the one in Mildura and Doncaster and all the other ones, Bayside. And we'll promote it, and there'll be people all around Warrnambool, and I'm talking in the thousands, that will be watching and tracking all this stuff. There's a massive group down in Casterton, which is Western Victoria, that have contacted me after seeing me on Carl's show. So there'll be people everywhere that will come flooding out and want to join My Place Warrnambool on Facebook. And at that point, you will start to see, holy shit, we've got 200 people already. Let's organise a meeting, and that meeting can be anywhere. It can be in a park to start with. It can be at the local footy ground. Doesn't have to be in a venue. And then once you start to know the group and you get everyone's skill sets and who they are and what they do, and have that conversation. Obviously you need a couple of leaders, someone really strong to start the group if you can. And you just keep adding people to your committees and say, look, we need to establish a steering committee just for the whole My Place Warrnambool group, and you can sit down and discuss how we move forward and start subgroups and all the things that we need that are at all the other My Places. So it's really just starting a page. That's the first thing. The minute someone starts a page and they send it to me, we'll be putting it up on My Place Frankston, and we'll be advertising it all around the state.
Awesome. That's really exciting. All right, cool. Well, I'll let you, I guess, get back to your evening. Once again, thank you so much for jumping on. I really appreciate it. Maybe our paths will cross again at some point.
Yeah, no problem. And look, thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to your audience. And look, it's so important that people actually, the time for walking and talking is well and truly over. We need to take action. We need to implement some of the stuff that's working. All of the other plans that people have that everyone's kind of following are destination plans. Even the A1 stuff that I'm involved with, it's a destination, the idea for what Australia should look like. This, to me, is one of the best plans for the journey to get to that destination. And the journey is way more important than the destination, because without the journey, the destination ain't worth squat, because we've got to build those bridges. We've got to fill those holes and smooth those ruts. And that's what you do when you build community and we get everyone back together. So when we get to the destination, we've already built the community. We've already fixed all the problems along the way.
That's beautiful. All right. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again. And we'll speak soon.
No worries. Thanks, Julia.
No worries. Take it easy. Bye.
Ugh.